How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I've been messing around testing this thing out, the DCB US-R900. I think the other one's called like the K900, and yeah, it's nicknamed Big Bob, and it is a bit of a big beast. That's what she said. Yeah, I quite like it, to be honest. I like the fact that it sits very nice and high, like it's very good on ground clearance. It's got some nice tyre choices, nice tyre sizes. It's just like a very large truck, and I quite like that. It's kind of almost like it's just been scaled up. I'm sure obviously they do exist this size in real life, but I just mean in some ways it's almost like a bigger, bulkier, heavier, more well put together version of stuff like the Taz and the Warthog, where it's, you know, got 4 tyres, 2 axles, pretty standard issue stuff. But it's just this has got like quite a lot of heft to it, and yeah, that's what after messing around with it tonight I quite like, because it's very well weighted. You get more like feedback and response from the remote and everything when you're driving it, because it's not kind of just floating around like it weighs practically nothing. You can sort of, yeah, just with the way like the remote vibrates and stuff as you land and everything, it's just, you get quite a lot of feedback on what's going on. It feels pretty realistic. As you're kind of jumping over hills and banging back down onto the floor, it feels like an actual truck is landing back on the floor, not like a cardboard mock-up of a truck. Yeah, so that's definitely good. I mean, you got all different choices of trailers. I only brought this one just out of curiosity. I like this trailer. The only time I really like it is, yeah, when it hitches to the truck and sits really high, it kind of lifts the front axle and the mud flaps and everything completely off the floor. And yeah, this trailer's pretty easy to tow, like in this situation. And yeah, like I say, the tyres as well, I think they're 61 inches the biggest you can get, which is a pretty decent size. Even the, what's it, the Twin Steer's got 63-inch tyres, and they're the biggest that you can get like the high-range gearbox and stuff in. This one, I've got the high-range gearbox in at the minute, and I'm not sure if there is like a different version of high-range that the modders are using or what, but there's another truck as well. What was it? The that Gaz BTR, or it's called like the B8053, I think. It's like, it sort of, it's a Scout, but it's like, yeah, it sits pretty tall again, like a decent off-roading Scout, to be honest. That's the same, you put the high range in that, and it's still only got 5 auto gears. But, I mean, that's the same situation with this. Yeah, having said that, it motors along pretty nicely, even when you're in like 5th out of 5 gears. The high range as well, as you can see that I'm in now, it's, yeah, nice, set at a nice balanced pace. It's certainly going quick enough that I don't feel that impatient feeling, or yeah, like I'm not really making much progress. But it's not so over the top that it starts to feel either unrealistic or a little bit, yeah, a little bit mental. Like the characteristics of this game just behave a little bit odd at kind of the top speed end. And yeah, cutting through this water as well, I mean, it's doing pretty well. I've gone fairly deep. Not quite as deep as I did with the Azov Iceberg. I kind of did take the piss with that one a bit. However, this one's gone, yeah, not bad. You can see, like, the trailer hasn't got enough weight to it, so that's being tipped over by the current. But the current wasn't able to tip this up onto like at least 2 wheels to where it couldn't really grip and get out of there. It's also got enough of its own weight that the trailer, even though that was tipping, that just wasn't able to impart any influence on my truck. My truck's like, that's the, yeah, that's like the leader of this little group, the truck and the trailer. Like, the truck tells the trailer where to go. In some situations with the lighter trucks, it's the opposite way, like the trailer tells the truck what's happening. And yeah, that can end up in some a bit iffy sort of driving, you know, and crashes and all sorts. So yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things I do like about this, is that it feels very realistic. It's weighted very nicely. I wasn't really going for a major gold time. For some reason, it makes you drop both of them cargo off at separate times, which wastes a few seconds. But yeah, about 251 or whatever it got, it ticked along nice enough. As you can see now as well, drop the hammer, put it in high gear, and yeah, it's a nice pace. Jumps over this hill pretty nicely. I like the fact as well, so even when it lands there, you can kind of feel more feedback in the remote, because it's slamming down pretty hard, but the suspension is also pretty tough and heavyweight and durable, so it's not just, you know, made of glass where as soon as you tap it over a certain amount, it completely deletes it. Obviously, you can be driving along, hit something in this game like happens, and you'll take some damage, but that's fine, that's part, you know, it's damage mechanics. They've got to introduce it at some point to make it a thing within the game. But yeah, some trucks you could do a little jump like that, land now, and it'd absolutely like probably delete your entire suspension. So overall, it's just been very well put together. I mean, you can see there, I hit whatever the hell I hit there. Not really looking. By now, by the way, I was listening to music. I can't remember what, but something quite fast-paced. So I was, yeah, flooring it, squeezing that trigger, and I wasn't letting it go. I was having a good old time. But even now, I've damaged the suspension eventually. It's sat low, it sits lower on the back, but it still stays pretty well lifted at the front, which I quite like as well. Yeah, no real issues driving along like this. It's just like a bit of a low rider at the back. Overcooked it a bit here. I kind of had a feeling, I did that on purpose, like went a little bit cut in the corner to see how well it'd handle, will it flip or whatever. And yeah, overall, I mean, the weight's pretty decent and does sit fairly low. It isn't the most untippable in the world though. There is still definitely a reasonable amount of weight sort of more higher up as well. And yeah, you can see again, like, the ease with which it smacks them trees out of the way. That's because there is so much weight behind it that, yeah, they don't really have much say in the situation as well, which is pretty nice. And yeah, again, I am throwing it around at the minute on purpose, just kind of abusing it / having a good old time. And that's one thing I sort of noticed with this truck is, yeah, I had a pretty good time flying around with it tonight, and was doing a lot of messing around and all the rest of it, but it's good when a truck and a vehicle makes you feel like you just want to go messing around. Yeah, I tend to enjoy making the videos on the good trucks a lot more because I just have more fun in general. Whereas, yeah, when there's a truck that's not really my sort of thing, I mean, I'll still make a video and just let you know what the crack is. I certainly don't want to badmouth any mods because, as I've said before, I'm not capable of making any mods, so I'm in no position to judge, but I just try and give them a little test, let you know what's what, kind of what I think, yeah, might need improving, what's good, what's bad, all the rest of it, but yeah, for the most part, I think, I suppose if there was anything I could change, you can see at the minute, and this is where I'm treating it a little bit more like a scout vehicle I would, but again, a heavyweight scout vehicle, probably more in line with something like the Tatran. I've got the repair thing on the back. You basically got a repair thing or a cargo bed, but the cargo bed can only hold one cargo, and it was one of them. It looks like, well, maybe it could fit two in there. It did look a bit small for that. It fits one, but there's definitely enough room for, say, at least 1.5. And as you can see as well, wrestling this trailer, had no problem throwing that around. Yeah, got a bit keen flying in there, nearly killed Brucey. But yeah, I mean, again, I had no problem throwing that trailer all around. And yeah, like I say, with that cargo thing that can only hold one slot, for the most part, there's not that many missions in this game that, like, you only need one slot of cargo. They probably could have done like what some of those other similar-ish trucks to this do, where it kind of has the flap at the back of the cargo bed laid down so cargo can almost hang out the back, but that way you could fit 2 slots. But again, it's not the end of the world or anything, because you can just grab a trailer. You've got obviously like the 2-slot and the 4-slot trailers. I suppose worst case you could attach a 4-slot ramped flatbed and then tow a 4-slot behind it. It'd probably have the power to actually handle that. It jumped the wall pretty well. I was pretty happy with that. Pushing through the trees as well, a little bit of a struggle, but overall pretty decent considering, like I said, the taller the vehicle is, the more branches you catch higher up going through there. If you're something pretty low slung, it kind of slips under there anyway. Yeah, so this thing certainly had a lot of branches to contend with there, and it slowed it down a bit, but it managed to muscle its way through. And again, this was just me, kind of for my own curiosity, seeing what it's capable of. I quite like the amount of chassis flex. There is a little bit in there, but nothing excessive to what like the Bandit was doing. It climbed up those rocks very nicely as well, which I was pretty happy with. Again, because it's got so much weight, it sits very planted within the terrain, and that's where a lot of lightweight trucks struggle to climb up over them rocks. Them rocks in general are pretty difficult. You can see now, again, I mean, everything's going to tip at some point, but yeah, it's not fully trying to fight tipping. Once you've gone a certain amount, it's kind of just happy then to tip over, and that's the end of it. See now as well, like, I don't know what the hell I hit, but oh no. Loaf. Send in the loaf. It's time. Yeah, I think I hit the fence or something, and it decided to do one big fat wheelie. It was like, has anyone seen that horse video? Someone calls it like Horse Hogan. Speaking of Horse Hogan, send in a professional. Yeah, a horse that just jumps in the air, kind of body slams the guy on top of it. He ran off, so I assume his hip is not completely shattered, but I certainly wouldn't want to have been him when it happened. Yeah, flew down the runway. Again, considering it's only got the 5 gears, they're still ratioed pretty nicely that you get a fair bit of speed on. See? That's why you bring a goddamn professional with you. He looked a bit of in a precarious situation there, but he gets the job done, working it out, carry the 7, he knows what to do, he's on it. Which I was curious, like, I mean, we've got a 100% record to protect with the loaf. Well, he's earned it, I don't even need to protect it, to be honest. he racks up the rescues. So, of course, I was trying to find myself a little loaf hole or something to grip onto. Seen the corner of those rocks, that's pretty tempting, I've tried them before. That's why I winched over to like the left hand side as we're looking at it instead of the middle. Helped me get a better angle, gets his little hoof hooked into that rock. Another rescue complete. And at the minute as well, because this thing sits pretty tall, I kind of thought, well, give it a go. See has it got any chance of driving across here. If you kind of set off from this section to go to that little island, for the most part, like I say, it's very rare stuff gets over here. Most things are just, yeah, are not tall enough. I've not done it for a while, but that's about 8-1 to me, racing the current. Yeah, the dolphin managed to get over here. But it did take some damage. This thing, yeah, starts taking damage now. Apologies, there's a little glitch there, but probably just a second or so. I mean, it was taking hits. The engine's got about 500 odd health to it, which is pretty decent. Got me fairly far in the water, even to the point where I think it started getting shallower again. I was able to fix the engine with a repair kit on the back, however, it wouldn't let me start the engine again. And you see, this is what I was saying before. You need to get yourself a goddamn horse with a vehicle, because right now, I was just looking around thinking, for whatever reason, if I had a horse with me, I would be able to cross this river. And I don't really know completely how, but I just know that that is the case. And then I needed to prove it to myself, so it's like, right, fetch the big boys, go and get the P12, have a little look at it, doing a nice little drift. That's what you want to see out the back window. And yeah, just while I was quickly messing around, driving down the runway, you can see I sort of zoomed the camera in. Definitely plenty of ground clearance, watching the little prop shafts going around. There's the tyres as well, they're studded, so they haven't got the chain on. I've never really minded chain tyres, to be honest, I quite like them, but more people have said they don't like the chain than do. Drove off there pretty well, it was kind of helping that the P12, like the tension on the winch was sort of stopping me going completely flying arse over tit. Yeah, it got squidged, wasn't able to escape in time. You see again, fight horse, help me out horse. I mean, look at that, firing up that nuclear engine. I mean, did they put the engine in the loaf, or did they wrap a loaf around that engine? It was a goddamn beast. See, just a professional, gets the job done. Hooks himself into them rocks, but he's only stuck when he wants to be. As soon as he wants out, he's away. Pops them in, fits like a glove. Yeah, I mean, this is just the point I'm making, that having this thing on its own, as good as it is and as tall as it is, it wasn't able to make it across here. You get yourself a professional, and he just mows away. He's trained. He's a SBS loaf, special boat service. Just getting his little seatbelt on, make sure he's attached, and we're off. Good times. We are sailing. We are sailing. Yeah, there might be one person out there who will recognise what that's from. Yeah, again, taking the engine damage, but we knew that was going to happen. Of course, it's a shame I can't like borrow the loaf snorkel, because that's well and truly out of the water. But you see, it's stalled again. That was the little loaf scream for help. And then I remember from me zombie winch days, plugged a winch into it. I was like, hang on, why are you not moving? What's going on? Speak to me, Bob. And then I was like, oh yeah, I remember now. Get the roof rack from the loaf, fix the engine, stick another winch on him, and we're off. The zombie Bob is go. And don't get me wrong, it is it's not the fastest of situations. Zombie Bob is not the quickest of trucks. However, using just the magic of the loaf, I was able to, yeah, turn Bob into a zombie. He's slowly crawling forward. Loaf's got his little head out of the water, like a little loafoscope, checking the way, and then eventually I'll know It's kind of like a little quirk of the game. Obviously, normally if I switched back to Big Bob, it would start damaging the engine. But when I got shallow enough that Big Bob's engine could officially start, it started taking damage. As soon as it started taking damage, I switched back to Big Bob, because then I knew his engine was running, and I'd be able to drive out of here. And I mean, there you go. There's Big Bob and a loaf that just made their way across the sea, when Big Bob alone just couldn't do it. Most trucks on their own can't do it, but you send a loaf with them, and he figures it out. And again, stick his little seatbelt on. Pretty steep hill to climb, so gets his little hoofs hooked over them, that front windscreen. And we've discovered more land. What a professional. Yeah, and scared the shit out of a tree, which is one of my favourite pastimes. Yeah, next up, just as a little test, I mean, it ain't that rapid up here. There is two versions of the gearbox. You've got a high range, but like I said, it's not necessarily in terms of auto gears anyway, like the traditional high range. They've also got the, is it like a 5-speed auto gear? Well, they're both auto anyway, as far as we're concerned. Yeah, that's got, I think it might still have 5 gears, but they're certainly ratioed lower. The high range is slower, but it has got the 3 low range options, which in this case, because it has got engageable diffs, like they're not just always on. Yeah, maybe crawling up here it'd be better to have the high-low. But all in all, I don't think it'd be going that much faster up here, because like I said, the off-road gearbox in and of itself is like just got lower gear ratios to begin with. But if this was real life and I was driving up a hill this steep in this truck, I'd still be pretty happy with the situation. Certainly not going to win any awards for speed. I mean, that being said, I'd be even happier if I was in this truck going up this hill twice as fast. But it did it. It got its way up there. It'd be nice as well. You can see like the repair thing on the back. If they're able to spread them jerry cans out a little bit more, or put them in the gap between like the bed and the cab, because yeah, it kind of makes the back end a little bit wobbly. I wasn't able to pack a loaf on there. Flying down the hill, I was going for that tree, but got a bit wobbly. Things didn't go well. Kind of hit the tree, but just kind of rolled it. I've just seen as well while I was editing this, I've had a bit of a busy morning helping my mum sort some things out and that, but yeah, I think Phase 3 has just been released. By now, I'm going to end up, it always releases at a bad time for me, but yeah, I'll get it updated, obviously. I'm not going to make a video on it right now, because it's only just started. I've still got to update it all and everything, but yeah, so I'll have videos on that later. That's good that that's finally here as well. I'll be doing, obviously, another live stream in the next day or two. I can't even remember what day it is at the minute. So yeah, I'll be able to live stream some Phase 3 stuff, which I'm definitely looking forward to. What I'll probably do tonight is, yeah, get on the new maps, get them explored and uncovered, because that can generally take a long while of just stopping, starting, pausing, looking at the map and all the rest of it. So I'll probably get that kind of thing done, but I probably won't do too many missions, or just, yeah, go around, collect all the missions, see what's what, and then in time for the live stream I can kind of, yeah, have a little plan. I was going to carry on with stuff like uncovering quarry and all the rest of it, but that's essentially, I've just kind of been, you know, finding things to do to tide me over. I think most of us have been doing the same, sort of waiting for Phase 3, so that's good that it's finally here. Hopefully there's not the same controversy as there was with Phase 2. Hopefully it's not deleting everybody's trucks off the maps or anything. If anyone hasn't updated yet, this is kind of your heads up that, so, yeah, the update's here. So I was able on my PS4 to go into it and pause the update, so if I want, I can load the game up first, recover any trucks that I've left out just to be safe, and then carry on with the upload, or update, or whatever it is. Yeah, driving along there as well, it cut through that mud back there pretty well. That snowy section I drove through as well, that slows a lot of stuff down, and this thing motored through that pretty nicely. And then coming along to here, this ice gets most trucks. I was pretty amazed, to be honest, that this thing actually just about managed to blag its way over to the other side. Considering it's a very heavy truck, I thought it'd absolutely just plummet through that ice. It kind of did, but it was at least keeping enough speed to it, and it's got big enough wheels that rather than butting up against the ice and having to knock it out of the way, it can just kind of roll over it. So I'll go a bit slower now on purpose to make the wheels fully drop in to see what would happen. And yeah, like I said, this bit, most stuff does get stuck. I mentioned the other week there's a possibility they could have updated the ice in some way, in a good way, because yeah, it feels a little bit more like you've got a bit more chance of getting back out of there. But nonetheless, I remember this was notoriously trollish back in the day. There's certainly some big chunks of ice there. I could imagine plenty of trucks with smaller wheels would still be struggling now. But like you say, because the ice doesn't go as high as like halfway up the wheel, it's still able to roll over it rather than trying to kind of almost go under it and break it and everything. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. Then last up, I mean, I sort of already knew by now that got to test these things, go and kill some trees just to be safe. Again, I think there's a tiny little glitch there, but it nails them pretty well. I just for whatever reason I couldn't keep the thing in a straight line. I'll try it again. It does skip around a bit. That's one thing I probably would, if I could, adjust slightly, is slightly quicker steering. But again, it's not the end of the world. It's probably within the characteristics of the truck anyway, so it's nothing to write home about. That's just sort of personal preference. But yeah, you can see that even in auto it had no trouble. It's certainly got the weight to it to smack them around. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, overall it's a good mod. I'd say it's worth getting. I've kept it. I've not even sold it back or anything at the minute, so I'll hopefully be using it a bit more. Certainly now they've dropped phase 3, I'll be giving it a go. Another tree. This last tree, by the way, it's the one tree in this area that is just unkillable. Yeah, the predator, he knows. He's trying to warn me. But yeah, that's about it for today, though. I definitely recommend giving Big Bob a go. He's pretty good. And yeah, that's about it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with some phase 3 stuff.